back to the Melancholy Guy Talks Recovery Living with an Addiction. This is a companion podcast to my Tumblr blog, The Melancholy Guy. Um, dating, daring to be black and open. The adventures of a divorced, open, polyamorous African American male. I am the Melancholy Guy, Calvin, or CPJR if you know me. And today, I definitely believe that change I must or die I will. My blog can be found at melancholyguy.tumblr.com. So I'm gonna just do this real quick. So basically, the show is broken up into three parts: past, the polycule speaks; present, what's up with the polycule; future, accepting the change. Hey, welcome back to my podcast that I used to do. I think I stopped doing the podcast sometime in 2019, maybe around about February, April. I did my last show. And if you are a returning listener, you remember that my subject matter at that time was ethical non-monogamy or living an ethical non-monogamous life. Mostly focused towards polyamory, but I had definitely included different type of lifestyles. And if you also remember, um, I had did a number of shows. I didn't look up what show number this is, but I'll probably have more of that information and more like housekeeping type stuff on the next episode. I really just wanted this to be a recap episode, and I just wanted to talk about why the change and where I've been. So the change, as you noticed in the podcast name, it's no longer talks ethical non-monogamy. I might have said that, but anyway, it's gonna be the Melancholy Guy Talks. That's the basic name of the show, and then I change subjects from time to time. So now I'm talking recovery, living with addiction, because that's basically um, the intersectionality of me and my ethical non-monogamy. My living with the addiction, and hopefully most of the time living in recovery. Not all the time, I must tell you. So, um, if you remember that, oh, you may not remember, but basically, at last year at this time, I was doing the podcast on a regular basis, maybe like two, three times a week. And I think I had went down to one time a week because I was getting guests. I was interviewing guests on the podcast. And so I went down to one time a week, and then I just let it slide as I had before when I started the podcast last year at that time. Excuse me, one second. I had the heater just come on. As I started the podcast last year, about this time. No, I started the podcast last year. I wasn't working. That was sometime in, I guess it was about this time, January of 2018. It was January of 20, yeah, January of 2018. Yeah, and then I started working again. I work in IT. I started a position, and as always, as I started to work more and more, I became more focused on working and less focused on doing a podcast or creating or doing a podcast studio and all those type of things. And working became the took my focus and took my energy. So I stopped podcasting altogether, and I really wasn't taking care of myself. And basically, I needed to. I took my focus also off my recovery at the time. So before I was working, I was doing great in my recovery. As soon as I started working, um, it just got worse. But for me, I thought that I needed to shift the focus of my talk, and this is hard for me to talk about recovery and um, living with an addiction, and because I'm putting my shit out there. I'm putting my information. I'm putting who I am out on the table, which you would think that, and I do have blog entries to read, but I'm not gonna go into that now. Like I said, next week I'll do more housekeeping, but you would think that how I openly talk about my non-monogamy, I would also be free and able to talk about um, with my addiction, but I have there's a block. You know what I'm saying? There's like a shame aspect of it, and I think that for me, that block or that shame aspect is what's been keeping me, in a cage, keeping me locked up, um, in this vicious cycle of, you know, getting clean time relapse, getting clean time relapse, not really owning up to what my triggers are, and not really surrounding myself with the support network of people who love me, who accept me, and who are willing to, help me, do the things I need to do in order to stay clean. Because for me, it's a real addiction. The addiction is like, it's hard for me to say what it is at this point. Maybe I'll say it next week. But I think I wrote about it on. If you follow me on Instagram, I definitely wrote about it there, about what it is. But I have to build up my confidence as I talk about it, and deal with the shame, because it's something that I guess, like, I have asthma, and I'll go ahead and openly say I have asthma, right? So if you follow what addiction is, you would basically say, a lot of people say follow what's is a disease model. You have a disease. We're just born with it, and one day I hit the drug of my choice, as we say, in the people in recovery in the rooms. I found the drug of my choice. Boom, I was an addict, and that was it. It was it was over. Pretty much everything else has been history down the line. So it's like the shame of it, or having to deal with it. You know what? I'm gonna say this. This isn't the shame of actually being an addict. It's the shame of for me, of not actually facing it and not overcoming it. That's been the shame, and it's like, that's honestly what I need to address. And I haven't taken any notes. I'm talking off the top of my head this week and today in this first episode, because I wanted to let it just flow. I just wanted to actually just talk and see where I was with being able to talk about it, because this is gonna be it. I'll be talking about this for um, the next, however long however long I talk about it, however long I stay in recovery. Today, I could say I'm in my 8th day since my last use. I won't say relapse because I've been like using pretty much um, like all summer long. I've been pretty much like in a state of using, because I changed my job. I had to leave that job, and I started driving for Lyft and doing like DoorDash and stuff like that. So I've been like in the streets all summer long, and it's been like out of control. And I'm lucky, probably say I'm lucky to be here alive and still thriving and still in right frame of mind to be able to just get back to this seat and get back to actually talk about something that I think is helpful for me and maybe helpful for somebody else. Like I said before, when I do these podcasts, I do them for myself. And if you remember, also, if you're new to this podcast and me talking about this, I used to talk about, or I used to really talk a lot about. Um, I used to read from my blog. That's what I want to say. I used to read from my blog, and I had a lot of entries, and I blogged about my Tumblr. I wrote a lot of entries about how I opened up my marriage and how I became ethically non-monogamous, went from swinging to polyamory, and all the little adventures and people that came in and out of our lives. I wrote a lot about that. Now, this is a serious issue that I've had for a long time, and I've hardly ever written about that. When I have written about it, it's been very cryptic. You know what I'm saying? It'd be like I mentioned, oh yeah, I have addiction. You know what I'm saying? Or I have addiction issues. You know what I mean? Like every now and then I get a little out of control. Nah, my nigga, this is serious. This is a serious issue, and one that I hope that I would have taken seriously, but I didn't. And right now, um, I'm taking it seriously. It took me like 2 or 3 days to finally get myself in this seat to do this podcast, and I'm grateful that I finally did it, and I'm doing it. It's gonna be more to come. These are gonna be short episodes, 15 minutes. Next the next episode will be more focused. I think I'm gonna write like I did the whole middle. I said the show's broken up into three pods: past, present, and future. The politics. I'm gonna change that. I think because I don't like the way it sounds. Because I'm not talking about polyamory too much anymore, and I'm not doing interviews. But I'll work on that. But basically, the show is gonna be about recovery, living with addiction, hardcore, and like I have started writing some entries in my Tumblr about addiction. If you go to that, you can read those, and I'll probably start reading those next week. I also post daily memes, and I'm gonna talk. I'm gonna post a meme um, tonight. Something that hit me and why I'm doing this. One thing about most people that are living, most people with addiction, you're either if you're an addict, you're either an active addict or you're in recovery. There's only two states for me that I think you can be in. Some people say that you could quit being an addict and all this kind of stuff, but I think that once you have turned that switch on and you're an addict in your brain, um, I don't know, like in the rooms they say like you could lose the compulsion to use, but you still have to watch your triggers and watch your mind. But then you're just in recovery. You know what I mean? You're just getting better day by day. Um, I would say that I have hit rock bottom at this point, and I'll tell you why. More next episode of why I hit rock bottom. But a lot of stuff happened in the years of 2016, 2017 after my divorce. As I was, working or living in the ethically non-monogamous community because of a number of relationships. But my last relationship that I was in, or I should say my last relationship, but the last relationship that I was in that we really really connected, that strong relationship that I just lost. And then how people post subs or post things um, on Instagram or Facebook memes. So this person posted a meme that just hit me so hard. Uh, you can say that it wasn't towards me. It wasn't a sub at me, but it definitely um, was something that was towards me because I didn't really tell her the truth about the addiction or what it was doing, or that I was still using intermittently. She had to eventually find out. And I eventually did tell her, and I think it really did hurt her. But all that meme basically stated, and this is why I'm doing this because you have to live in truth when you're an addict. Because if you don't, it can really hurt people. But basically, the meme read, don't expect loyalty when you can't provide honesty." And that was the thing. I was honest pretty much about everything in my life, but the main thing in my life. Not that I knew. I told her the truth that I was an addict. I did not tell her that I was an active addict. She thought I was living in recovery, and then when she found out, that's when I lost relationship, and that hurt me. And that was my last attempt at a relationship in the ethically non-monogamous community. But that's gonna be it for this episode. I think you just heard that. I'm gonna do. I just want to read more. I'm gonna have more for the next episode. If you listen, thanks. And I guess I'm gonna just go ahead and play us out. But always remember to love and respect yourself first, and everything else will take care of yourself. Will take care of itself. Namaste and peace.